What if you could look all of your legal agreements and have them tell the story you wanted to tell? Let's find out more about it in this week's episode. Hey there. Welcome to another exciting episode of the Conscious Counsel podcast with your host, Cory Sterling. That's me. As always, my promise is to provide and share fun and entertaining information to help you protect and grow your wellness business with both confidence and clarity. That's why I started Conscious Counsel many years ago. That's why I've created this podcast. That's why I do everything that I do, because I love health and wellness entrepreneurs just like you, and I want you to have all of the necessary legal information so that you can stay protected and never have to worry about any legal issues which may come up. This week, I want to talk about using your legal agreements to tell a story. Yes, to tell a story. And this is a different concept that I've been working with recently. And the reason that I've introduced it is because I was giving a presentation to about 60 tax professionals last week. And I was trying to explain to them the differences between law and accounting, which, if you want to talk about an exciting topic of conversation to have, that's it. And I realized that the biggest practical piece of advice and information I could share is from all of the experiences that I've had working with thousands of clients and having done this for almost 9 years now. It's always going to come down to what story can you tell? And in law, there's an old saying, and that saying is that it doesn't matter what happened, it matters what you can prove. And I think in alignment with that, a really important piece of what you can prove is what do your documents say and what story can you tell with your documents? And the reason why this matters is because as a health and wellness entrepreneur, you're navigating through the journey of your business. You're hiring people, you're working with clients, you're creating unique art pieces of work, whether it's a teaching material, whether it's a program, whether it's different offerings of classes, whatever it is that you're creating, you just want to run your business and you don't want to think about the law. And for me, it was so interesting to speak with all of these accountants because I realized they never think about the law. They just always think about accounting. And for me, I never think about accounting. I only think about the law. And so I was trying to, as simply as possible, explain to them how a problem arises and when the problem arises, how you can use the agreements that you have to tell the particular story that you want to tell. And so the basic concept here is that if and when there's a problem at law, it's always going to follow the same sort of lead up situation where there's going to be an issue, there's going to be a problem, someone's going to send you an email or a letter or file a complaint against you or do something where they're going to either ask for some money or demand some money. Usually they don't ask, usually they demand, or they're going to say, you did this incorrectly, or you screwed up, or you owe me this, or this really belongs to me. Whatever it is, it always starts with some form of complaint. Now, I usually get involved. Ideally, I'm involved before the complaint arises, where I've worked with the clients, we've drafted industry-specific agreements for them, we're able to support them, we're able to help them. And then if there's a problem, we can use the documents to tell a story. But usually I'll get involved after the problem has arisen, and my clients will forward me a demand letter or some complaint against them. And the first thing that I say every time, and I've shared this in so many episodes, but it's so important, is I'll say, send me a copy of the signed agreements. So the reason why I need to have that is I have to understand I'm not really so interested in the fact pattern of what is the legal issue that's happened here. I'm much more interested in, firstly, what do we have signed? What are the agreements that we have signed? What do those agreements say? And what story can I tell based on those agreements being signed? Now, this is where proactive law and reactive law comes into play. When I've been able to work with a client, they sign up for the membership, we get them the legal agreements, we're able to work through things, I can say, okay, cool, awesome, we've got everything signed. I don't really care what a story this person's going to tell. I know that you're protected because you've got the agreements in place. And based on that, the story that I can tell is before we worked together, before the situation arose, you signed these contracts. This is what the terms of the agreements are. Therefore, this is my client's legal position. Now, alternatively, in the event that we're practicing reactive law, the client hasn't set things up properly, they didn't work with us to get their industry-specific agreements, now we'll be scrambling, and the story that we can tell is not nearly as strong as it could be. And a lot of the times it's actually my client will have a weaker legal position because the story we're able to tell because they got the documents from ChatGPT or they borrowed it from a friend or they wrote it themselves. And I swear these things actually do happen. In the event that any of those things happen, now the story that we can tell is much weaker and our legal position is worse. And as a result, we can get drawn into all sorts of different legal issues and needing to negotiate. And I never want any of my clients in that. I always want my clients to have legal agreements that protect them and that put them in a position to succeed. So the whole idea here of what I'm talking about is of using your legal documents for storytelling is that, remember, it doesn't always matter what happened. What matters is what you're able to prove. And usually a lot of the proof for a legal relationship will be in what agreements was signed by the parties before they started working together. So if it's an employment agreement, if it's a membership agreement, if it's a service agreement, if it's a licensing agreement, whatever it is, you're going to want to have the agreement signed beforehand so that something comes up. The agreement, if you've worked with lawyers like our team at Conscious Counsel, we've been through these situations so many times beforehand. We can already anticipate what problems are going to come up for each unique type of relationship. And the agreements are already drafted and written in a way so that you are protected for this outcome that will happen. Now, of course, when I work with clients, they don't have nearly as much legal experience as I have. And so they're not thinking about that. They're not thinking like, oh, well, could this problem arise or could that problem arise? And the truth is they shouldn't be thinking that. That's why they're working with us. That's why they've hired professionals to help them. And so I just want to tell a story that sort of outlines this situation. And in this case, this is something that I'm going through now with one of our Conscious Counsel members and a studio owner. So they have a Pilates studio and they're having problems with one of their clients who signed up for them, and it's a Pilates studio, and I think the person bought like a 10-pack of classes. So my client is a member, has gotten a waiver of liability with us, and got the client service agreement / membership agreement with us. The service agreement and the membership outlines behavioral expectations. Hey, you have to treat everyone with respect. If you treat any staff in a rude manner, then we reserve the right to terminate your agreement and have you not work with us anymore. Plus, the waiver of liability says, in exchange for us working together, you agree not to hold us legally responsible in the event that injuries happen or the damages are suffered or whatever it is. Now, in this case, the fact pattern is the client at the Pilates studio making a lot of problems, a lot of issues, fighting with staff members. It's a very, very difficult situation for my client. And they're just like, they just sent me an email. They're like, hey, I want to fire this person. So cool. Awesome. What story can we tell because of the documents we have? Really, really easy. Firstly, the first story I can tell is before my client allowed you to practice Pilates in the studio, you signed this contract. This contract had behavioral expectations. You've broken the contract, breach of contract. Therefore, you're no longer welcome at the studio. We send that off. Hey, blah, blah, blah. This is exactly... These were the agreements. This is the behavior. We've provided statements from staff members and other members of the studio. Therefore, you're no longer allowed to come. The person's response was then alleging some form of damage. So saying, hey, well, actually, I'm going to sue you because I got hurt and I did this and this wasn't done properly, and some whole sorts of stories. Cool. Okay. So the first part of the story we've told. Membership agreement, behavioral expectations. We don't have to see you. You're not welcome here. This problem is finished. The person comes back with, okay, well, I actually can't dispute that because I have this contract that I signed, but actually I did get hurt because of this, and now I'm going to sue you for hundreds of thousands of dollars, and whatever story they tell. And the story I'm able to tell as lawyer for my client is really simple. Hey, you signed this waiver of liability. We told you you'd be using the reformer, the Cadillac, and the chair for Pilates. You're alleging these injuries. Firstly, we don't know if they're true. This could just be something that you're saying. But even in the event that they are true and that you suffered those injuries by virtue of participating and using the equipment that we listed, you've already relinquished your legal rights. So it's finished. It's over. That's the story. And if you want to pursue this, we reserve the right to counterclaim against you. And, we've shown that this is just a fanciful claim against us and that all you're trying to do is create problems for my client. And the legal agreements that you've signed are extremely clear. and unequivocal. And if it goes in front of any mediator or judge, we feel 100% confident in our position. And that's it. And the problem gets resolved and the problem's finished. And the reason why this is so important is because so many of the problems that we have to help clients with can easily be prevented if we're able to tell the story that we know should be told with the legal documents and with the agreements. And this is just a case of it could have gone either way if this person did not work with us and wasn't a member and didn't have the specific agreements. Okay, cool. It could get drawn out. They can't fire them. Then there's a whole issue of having the person in the studio, even though they don't feel comfortable with them being there. You signed this agreement, you broke it, it's finished. That's the story we're telling. Next situation, now they're alleging injury. You sign this agreement, it includes all the equipment and the injuries. You're finished. You have no legal case against us. And that's really what using legal agreements for storytelling is. And it's something really important. So the concept that I just want everyone to be able to take away from this is just remembering and an understanding that your legal agreements tell a story. And as long as the agreements are specific to the relationship that you want to have, the nuances, the details of what you want your legal protection to be, it's very, very easy for you to navigate issues and challenges and problems and crises that come up because your legal rights are determined by that agreement. And the story that you can tell is, hey, before we allowed you to work with us, you agreed to the following. Now the following has taken place. You have no legal rights against us. There's no problem. And this is what I want for everyone. The reason why I want this for everyone is because I love everyone who works in health and wellness. I think that as professionals, we're making the world a healthier place and you're helping your clients, you're building your community. I love all of that. I understand that you don't know anything about the law or you know very, very little about the law with limited experience. And I want you to be protected as always. So remember, whatever it is that you do, work with a lawyer that you love and feel free to send us a message on Instagram and just connect at Conscious Counsel. Love you, everyone. Be great. Have fun. Practice safe law.